Good afternoon. This is Nancy Mackey of Open Gate Consulting, and joining me today is Jen Olson, Marketing Manager of A&R Solar. Good afternoon, Jen.
Hey, Nancy, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this interview. And just a little bit for our audience, we this is our part of our Talent Treasures segment, and this is our opportunity to talk with our Open Gate friends about their number one talent. And CliftonStrengths is a tool we use often with team building and coaching, and it's from the Gallup Corporation. It's a fabulous instrument that helps us identify 34 top talent teams, and I've just found it to be a really useful tool, and helps kind of change the paradigm a little bit about how we think about ourselves. So, yeah. So, Jen, tell me a little bit about your role as a marketing manager, and what is it that what's a typical day like for you?
So I have been at A&R Solar for uh 10 years
Hmm.
and grown along with the company from a staff of 25 to now 115, 16, something in that area. And so that has been a lot of fun. I've started as just a solo marketing person, and as A&R has grown, now I have a few people under me. And so a typical day is I'm on the executive team, so I have that slice of earth, and then I manage people, so I have that coaching and direction and helping them with roadblocks, and then I have that kind of overall strategy for marketing, and then because we have a small team, I'm also involved in day-to-day activities.
Yeah.
Everything from, writing content for the website to cranking out business cards for new hires,
Yeah.
everything in between.
Lots of variety. Wow, wow. And so interestingly, today we are talking about the Clifton Strengths talent theme of strategic, which is your number one theme. And as I told you before the call, I'm excited because it's mine too. So we'll really riff off each other today. But to give some context for folks about strategic, people with the strategic thinking theme, it's an analytical theme, and it means we tend to think about things in more of a big picture sort of a way. We tend to look at all the data and information we get and start to see patterns with that data. And then also think a lot about what are alternate ways to proceed. So, with that definition, does that ring true for you in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when you say data. So A&R really prides itself on us being a bunch of nerds.
Hmm.
And and I love data and I love looking at data. I am not a fan of the collection of data.
Oh, good distinction.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be
Hmm.
very clear about that. I
Hmm.
would love for someone to put stuff in a spreadsheet that I know they've done it right, and
Yeah.
I can just come in there and trust that information and then look at it. And the
Hmm.
one of I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but one of the greatest assets that's come along my way as the strategic is um is AI,
Oh, tell me more.
because
Yeah.
AI allows me to see those patterns in a way that cuts right through the chase, right? I'm not
Mhm.
getting distraction by this shiny thing and that shiny thing. I'm like, hey, can you, here are my criteria. Can you analyze this data from our ad spend last week?
Mhm.
So now it's taking it, it's giving me these really rough big ideas, and I can be like, okay, well, you are obviously in outer space about that one, but I see the value in these, and I'm like, I ask, it's like having another strategic partner in that room,
Yeah.
right?
Wow,
And
yeah.
it's like, okay, so if I let's go down this rabbit hole for a while. If I did this, what do you think will how would that change the results? And
Mm.
it's like a mad scientist that it
Yeah.
never gets tired, doesn't lip off. And then I'm like, I always feel so bad if I ask it to follow up or to redo something. And I'm like, hey, it's a computer, it's not a real person.
That's right, it's not gonna get tired. Oh, that is fascinating, and that's funny because I hadn't really thought about it that way, but even as you mentioned, I'm going, "Ooh, yeah, that sounds like fun." And really good distinction about you not so much the collection of data, where I imagine someone who's higher in the analytical skill might really love to drill down on those individual pieces of data. You really mentioned the patterns piece of it.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
to me, I I don't know where I can't remember where I rank for creative, but I
Mhm.
love the I don't see data as data. I see data as possibilities, and I see it as
Yeah.
campaigns, and I see it as I don't see the ones and zeros. I see the output.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're looking for that end result.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that other people notice that talent in you in any way or
Yeah, I yes, and I think it's a double-edged sword. When I
Mhm.
was thinking before about this, I was like, I I have this tendency to be off to the next thing. And
Mhm.
someone will bring up something that was, months or years ago. And I'm
Mhm.
like, why are you back there? I'm over here. And
Right.
it's like I have to really catch myself, and I haven't done a great job of this. So I'm trying and I'm learning. One of the things I told you is this really gives me insight into myself, which is endlessly fascinating and horrifying at the same time. Um, and it's to catch myself and realize not everyone thinks the way that I think,
Right.
and not everyone can go like that. There are people who need time to absorb that um and to really let it soak through the layers, right?
That's right.
And I'm like, oh, why are we why are we standing still?
Right.
Just like kind
Right.
of my I just hate being like intellectually still, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah, really good point, right? And I think people with the strategic talent theme also tend to process things fairly rapidly. And so hearing you say, yeah, I'm already on to the next thing, I find that true for me too. And so I think there's advantages and disadvantages as we really try to stress with the Clifton strengths. Our talents can really help us to be successful and be built into a bona fide strength. They can also get in our way sometimes. So it's important to look at both sides of that coin. So, how do you find strategic kind of gets in your way?
Oh, got it. I was thinking, am I just I have to be like crazy making to work with sometimes, right? And because I it just dawned on me from really thinking about this in what is it that how is it that I relate to people?
Hmm.
Because it makes me irritated. It makes me physically irritated when people can't keep up. And they're like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, that
Yes.
is terrible. That's like
Yes.
really terrible and rude. But now that I'm recognizing that about myself, and that is one of the things that this really brings to the forefront.
Right.
When you know someone that you might kind of rub against from time to time,
Right.
something different, you're like,
Right.
oh, so now I try to ask people, it's like, what's your number 1 and 2?
Oh, yeah.
And to really be like, okay, they're different. And I
Right.
might not know all the details of that description, but
Right.
I know that they're not me.
Yes, exactly. And there's some value in having that information and it depersonalizes it, I think, a little bit.
Yes.
My husband started his career as an engineer and he's high one of his top 5 is analytical, which is
Mm,
like a polar opposite. I mean, they're both strategic thinking themes, but they're the ones that like the data. And so I'll often hear him telling me to slow down and I'll tell him to like, come on, get to the point. And
yes.
but having the Clifton strengths as a tool has, helps us not to harm each other.
I was thinking too about where it shows up in my personal life. And I will have a friend text me and say, "Oh my gosh, we should go here on vacation," right? And all of a sudden, my mind just floods with everything that needs to be done, and all of weighs the advantages and disadvantages, and I'm like, okay, so we would have to go I in the shoulder season, so there aren't enough many people and blah blah blah. And they're like, whoa, just dreaming here, you
Yeah.
really have this planning.
Right.
Like, here's when the tickets will be the best, all of that.
Right. Right. Oh, I so get you, Jen. Yeah, we'd be dangerous.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Um, one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm curious if you notice this too, is just like what you said, your brain is going so many different directions that it can lead to overwhelm. And
Yes.
do you experience that too? And how does that play out for you?
With anxiety.
Yeah.
And it isn't like anxiety in the sense that I am anxious about, if it's like, it's not a depressive anxiety. It
Mhm.
is, I just feel like the energy is just, and ideas are just coursing through me, and
Yes.
I have to do something. I'm really fidgety, for
Yes.
one thing. I don't like to sit still.
Yeah.
And so that, yes, overwhelm is a huge thing. I have piles of papers of
Yeah.
ideas. I have I have all of these note cards that I wrote out, individual things to do that I was going to do over the holidays, and they're still here because
Yes.
I'm on to the next.
Yes.
And so that is the real downside of getting me to buckle down and actually focus on something and feel okay with that focusing.
Yep. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it? And
Hmm.
I relate to that too. You're right. It's not so much an anxiety, but it's that my brain can't turn off. It's just like I'm
Yeah,
always thinking about the next thing. And yeah, and it's like a burden or something
yeah,
like that. And maybe that's
yeah,
relating to anxiety or something like that.
yeah,
But
absolutely. And I can imagine what that's like when you're not that, to be
mhm.
around that,
Right.
right? Because it's kind of like you plugged yourself into a light socket now
Right. Right.
when you're trying to go to sleep. And it's just,
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, and yeah, another thing I thought of too, and I wonder if you experienced this, again, the example with my husband where the analytical, he'll tend to pick up on details that I might miss.
oh
And
gosh.
so I noticed for me, again, I'm kind of looking at this level, but then it's like, oh, I missed that detail over there. Do you experience that at all?
100%. That's why I
Hmm.
think there's so much value in having different personalities, different strengths on a
Right.
team, right? Because they can kind of backfill everybody else's weaknesses and
Right.
and oversights, right? And the other thing that I notice and that I have to do better at recognizing is a lot of people I've noticed are afraid of outcomes.
So
Like,
that's
what
interesting.
they're so careful that they have to proceed in the best way, and I'm just like, "Whatever." They'll be like, "Oh, no, it was something, this is terrible, that we failed at this," and I'm like, "So what? Let's move on, and
Yeah. Move on.
let's learn from it and try it again."
Right.
That's fun to me.
Right. The failure is, hey, maybe that's our new mantra. Failure is
Eh,
fun.
I don't think we'll start our business with that, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're the marketing person.
Not a
That
good
probably won't
tagline,
work.
Nancy.
Okay, we'll throw that one out. Well, let's say you are faced with a new challenge or something like that. How might you start to tackle it using your strategic strength?
Yeah. So what we just talked about, I'm like a plow horse, right?
Mhm.
Brain immediately switches on, and then we're off to the races. And so if there's a problem that needs to be turned into a plan of action, a project or something, right? We need more leads coming in this area. Then what I do now is that I will sit down with ChatGPT, and there's this great feature where you just talk to it and it will talk back to you in a
Oh,
human
wow.
voice, and it's eerie. And
Wow.
I'll be like, okay, this is what I know, because it's so much easier just to talk about it than even write
Right.
about it, and just talk it out and just be like, here's what I know of the market, here's what we've tried there before, and then I will pull like a report and say and upload it and say, can you analyze this for me? And do you see any opportunities here? Great. Okay, now we can start building the pieces, right? And then I will share that out. And then the people, like you mentioned, who are so much smarter than I am,
Mhm.
will find the deficiencies in it and be like,
Yes.
no, you can't do that here because of XYZ.
Right.
Um, and so, but putting those big pillars down and some of the details, that is by far my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you've got me excited to utilize AI in a little different ways now too. So you gave
Yeah.
me some ideas here. So, well, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but I maybe explore it a little deeper. One of the things that our resources with Gallup will do is do what we call theme contrasts. And
Mm,
so, one contrast that they outline is strategic as compared to analytical.
mhm.
And so there's a couple words here that define the two, right? Like, remember I said earlier, they're both strategic thinking
Right.
themes, but they've got some differences to them. And so strategic is described as a natural evaluator of possibilities.
Mhm.
Analytical is listed as a natural evaluator of realities.
Yes.
So what do you think about that?
I 100% am guilty of that. I mean, I think this is just how I've always been wired too, because I remember, uh, my dad saying to me, "Get your head out of the clouds," right?
Mm,
And that is still kind of and especially when, we were so small, um, it wasn't it wasn't in the cards. It wasn't viable to put my head in the clouds for very
mm,
long, right?
yeah.
Unless I could knock something out and have it show results. So there's always been that push pull for
Mhm.
me, and so now I see exactly why having an analytical person as my counterpart is so valuable, and
Yes.
that is absolutely who I have in my sales director, Michael O'Brien. He's
Yes.
analytical and I'm strategic. And I know he has strategic in him and is high
Yeah.
up. But, you know, we, when we are together, we're stronger. We're just the greatest. And when we fight like cats and dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, it's helped me understand why we do that.
Yeah. And so does it help a little bit when you hit those points of conflict to diffuse it in any way for you?
Oh, absolutely, because it's
Mhm.
not personal. It's just And I do so appreciate when I'm able to step back and after my dreams have been shattered, to be able to go, you know what, this guy is right. He's being careful and cautious, and he's taking care of the business in a way that I cannot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's really awesome. Well, when you think about maybe what we need from our managers, right? And so this
Yeah,
can also be applied as a tool for how we work with our teams and how we manage and lead people. What are some of the things that you need to flourish from your leadership?
I need I need not to I can't conform to what their idea of what I should be doing is. I need to be me, right?
Mhm.
And it's not just this lovely little marketing person in a box who smiles at everyone and gives everybody what they want, right?
Right.
I'm more than that. And being put in a box that kills me, that kills
Yeah.
all my ideas. Being micromanaged is just a unless I'm being micromanaged to come up with big ideas, then have at
Right.
me, right?
Right.
Um, it's just and when they compliment me in that way,
Mhm.
and are able to say, "Okay, so I see you've done this. Can you focus on that?" Then that helps me because it helps me put another piece. I love the puzzle, right? And it puts another piece of the puzzle in there for me.
Yes.
So I like autonomy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of us do. But
Yes.
I'm also very much aware that there are people who like that. Here, give me the list. We're going to
Right.
stick to the list, and that's how I need it. And I look at the list that I have and laugh because,
I'm on to the
haha,
next thing.
yeah, yes,
Wait a minute,
exactly,
that list is so yesterday.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking earlier about just how hard as strategic too it can be to execute. And before the call, we were talking a little bit how our program manager Laura was such a good support to you, and I second that. Right, she is high in a lot of the executing
Mm.
themes, and I am so grateful to have her as a partner because it's true. I have a hard time executing because I don't have a lot in my top five, and like you, I go on to the next thing. So when you have someone that you can partner with that can get it done,
Yep.
it can be a wonderful thing. So do you find that true for yourself too, or how does that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really taking, it is it is so refreshing for me to say, have somebody say, I got this,
Mhm.
right? I got it.
Mhm.
And for me then to let go, that's another thing, it's like
Yes.
we always have our little like this is my idea and I have to let go of that and let somebody else add to that idea,
Yes.
right? And one of the things that I love so much is getting with other people who are of that strategic mind and being able to just like interact in a way and brainstorm where you don't even know whose idea it really was because it doesn't matter. It's just
Mhm.
the end result has been so great that where it started and no one takes credit because it sounds so cliche, but it is that the group dynamic that makes it great.
Yes. So do you enjoy retreats?
No,
Really?
it depends. It
Yeah.
depends. I hate sitting.
Uh-huh.
I hate sitting for very long. And if And it really depends on if it captures my imagination,
Mhm.
because if it doesn't, it's torture.
Right.
Yeah, but if there is, like when we do our offsites and we have topics and stuff, I know that those are gonna be really enriching and meaty details that I
Right.
love to go. Now, if it's like a thing where you're going and people are talking at you the whole time,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, that could be really hard.
Yeah.
And if it's interaction for interaction's sake, that just annoys me to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what if it were, hey, we're working on a strategic problem and we're brainstorming ideas
I'm
to,
there.
yeah, you and me both. That's when I can get really fueled and energized for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
What's, as we're wrapping up a little bit, Jim, what would be some advice or words of encouragement that you might have for other people with the strategic thinking theme?
I would say the sooner that you can get to the place where you realize that this isn't how everybody operates and that you're okay with it and that you can leverage their strengths while leveraging your own, like that is powerful. Like you just said, when you have someone to balance you out, then you're doing great things together.
Right.
And to let go of whose idea it was and taking the credit, um, and just let that person take what you have started uh and then cross the finish line with it. And then you leverage the best in you to go on to the next.
Yeah. I love it.
And don't, for God's sakes, don't go into jobs that require like data entry or like seriously, you will be miserable. If you
Yes.
know who you are, then yeah, it's one thing to pay the bills in the meantime, but don't make a
Yes.
career out of it. It
Right.
will kill you and it will make you so unhappy. I am so happy in my role. I feel like I'm excited to go to work. And when I work more than I do up to a certain point, I am doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
And when you have fun at work, everything about your life is better.
Yes. Oh, couldn't say it better. That is wonderful. Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking your time to share with us today. This was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun for me. I appreciate
Same,
you.
same to you, Nancy.
Awesome. Thank you.